and then to solve, how do we undo a square?
Don't you turn it into a square root?
I take a square root of both sides. Okay, so the square and the square, they cancel, leave me b. And I can break it down 25 times 3. And then we know that the square root of 25 is 5. And then our leftover is 3. So you know that b is equal to 5 root 3. Okay. I'm going to let you write that down for a minute. I need you to look at the triangle for a minute. There are some relationships between the sides, between A, B, and C. Is there anything that you notice, even if it's obvious, or you think it might be obvious? What do you think? There's not much you can get wrong, honestly. And this is part of the participation points. There's 26 of you guys. Come on. Any sort of relationship, even if it seems obvious. What do you think?
Could you ask the question again? I didn't hear you.
Okay, I will. The 3 sides, A, B, and C, have relationships to each other. So do you notice anything in particular, even if it seems obvious, as to like what relationships the numbers have to each other?
Do they all go into each other? Like I see 5, 5, and 10. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good. That's true.
No idea.
That's perfect. Okay, what else?
That B and A are together.
Okay, so they share the same number, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I need you back. Good. Okay, so B shares the same number as A with just a square root of 3 next to it. Good. What about A and C? Do they have any relationship?
That they're both whole numbers.
Okay, they are both whole numbers.
A can go into C.
Okay, good. How many times?
Twice.
Twice. Good. Okay, so A can go into C twice. Now, all of those relationships play a part in the final results. Okay, so you're not going to have to do what we just did, but this becomes the relationship that we memorize and that we look at. Okay, so we're going to write this down. We're going to draw a triangle. Remember, we have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Well, I'm going to tell you that this is the 30, which would obviously make, hopefully, obviously, to make that the 60, because that's the 90. And the relationship across from the 30-degree angle is going to be our n, our number. And the other two numbers have a relationship to that number, just like we saw above. Okay. And just like 5 went into 10 2 times, this is going to be 2n. And just like Alyssa said, this, the bottom one and the side number, they're the same, except this one has a square root of 3 next to it. And that's the relationship. That's it. Okay. But one thing that we're not going to go over specifically, that there's a whole unit on it, but in geometry, we learn that across from the smallest angle, which of 30, 60, 90, 30 is the smallest side. So across from the smallest angle is the smallest side. And that's true across from the biggest angle, which would be our 90, is the biggest side. That's 2n. So once we know n, all we have to do is multiply it by 2, and we've got the hypotenuse. So we're going to call this the short leg, just so we're all calling it the same thing. We'll call this the hypotenuse. And this, if this is long, short, this will be long. So this is the long leg. And this is our 30, 60, 90 triangle. We're going to put a big box around that. That's what we're going to be referring back to, these relationships. So first example. We're going to do where the triangle's the same. Most of them will be the same direction, just because it's easier. But, and then the information we're given is this is 8 root 3. This is x, and that's y. So just like last week, first thing, label. And if you noticed in the assignment box, it says label to get credit. Label like you do in class, because you're going to see that there's no math to do on this problem. It's looking at the problem, noticing the relationships, and writing the answer. But we can only really know the relationship if we're labeling it. Okay. So opposite the 30-degree angle becomes n. Okay. Going this way to my left is 2n. That's the hypotenuse, which process of elimination makes this in root 3. So unmute yourself and tell me, what is n?
8.
8. Good. Because I can kind of like think about like crossing this out a little bit. And if I cross those out, I'm left with n. That would be n. So I know that n is 8. Now remember, this whole thing revolves around n. Once I find n, then I can find 2n. Once I find n, then I can find the n root 3. So finding n, what do I have to do to n to get the hypotenuse?
Multiply 8 by 2.
Good. Multiply by 2. So 2 times 8 would be 16. And you're done. So we know that x equals 8 and y equals 16. That was it. You know, hopefully some of you are going, well, that seems pretty straightforward and kind of easy. Most of these are. There are a few, like 2 or 3 that can be challenging. But if I can get you to focus on the ones that have a easier relationship, those will be mostly what you see. Okay. So second example. So 20x and y. Labeling first. I need to find my 30-degree angle, but I wasn't given my 30-degree angle. I was given the 60. So what do?
You divide by 2.
Okay, to find x. Okay, well, I need the 30-degree angle so I can label. So if this is 60, oh, I got you, 60 divided by 2. Okay, good. That would be 30. 60 divided by 2 would give me 30. But if you don't see a 30, all you're going to do is write it in. Okay. So here, this one's 60, so that makes this one 30. Opposite my 30 is what?
N.
N. So this is N. Going to my left, this case is 2N, and the other one becomes N root 3. Now, it's really nice when we're given N or 2N because all we have to do, this has a double half relationship. This is going to be the biggest number. So am I going to multiply or divide to find X or N?
Divide.
Divide, good. Because it has to be smaller than that, we're going to divide. So 20 divided by 2 is 10. There's your N. So now that I have N, what do you think my the long leg is going to be?
10 root 3.
10 root 3. This is an exercise of plug it in and simplify. Okay, this is 10 root 3. 10 root 3. Okay. So we know that X is equal to 10 and Y is equal to 10 root 3. Okay. Third example. There's a 30-degree angle. I'm going to tell you that this is 4 root 3. This is X, and that's Y. I'll let you copy down real quick before we do the problem. Our brain is an amazing organ in that we see the 4 root 3 and we see the relationship and we're going, oh, I got this, and it's 4. But if you take a few seconds to label like I'm requiring you to, you're going to find that that's not the leg that has the root 3. Okay. So labeling, we get this is N, this is 2N, and this leg is my N root 3. So try not to be too confused because this whole thing is my N. And if you remember from last week, all we're going to do is substitute in its place over here what we need to. So this becomes 2 times 4 root 3. What does 2 times 4 root 3 give us?
8 root 3.
8 root 3. Now we multiply outside numbers with outside numbers, inside numbers with inside numbers. Okay? So this is going to give me, I'm going to multiply those, 8 root 3. Okay? So there's my X. Then we're going to take this same N, and we're going to plug it in over here. So simplifying, this is going to give me n, which is 4 root 3 times root 3. Anybody remember what is root 3 times root 3?
Right?
We're
Oh, wait.
multiplying.
Oh. It
Root
would be,
three?
huh?
It would be just 3 because you get square root of 9 with the square root of 9 is 3. This is our 2 of them make a whole. So when we have a pair, it just gives us a whole 3. So this is 4 times 3, which equals 12. So now y equals 12. So on a few of the problems, there is some work you can show. But on, I would say at least half of the problems, they're going to be like this first one, where you're just identifying the n from the actual triangle, and you fill in the rest. Is anybody still writing?
Could you go to example 1, please?
Absolutely. Did you have a specific question on it?
No, I just didn't get it.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Okay, anybody else? Okay. Okay, next example. So this is my 30-degree angle. This one's very similar to what we just did, but it doesn't give us a nice number. Nice as in even. So labeling, one opposite my 30-degree angle is in. Which one's 2n? Would that be the x or the 7?
7.
Good. This is 2n. This would be my n root 3. Now, notice that this root is in a different place than the root last week was. So try not to get those confused. Our assignment number 4 kind of, we do both at the same time. So that's when it could be a little more confusing, but this is all the same thing, just only 30, 60, 90 triangles. Okay, so am I going to take 7 and multiply it by 2 or divide by 2 to get n?
Divide?
Divide. If this were an 8, I would just divide and I get 4. But we're going to just simply say 7 divided by 2. Don't try to get, impressive on me and go 3.5 or 3.5, because we just want to leave it as a fraction. Because all we're going to do now is take it and simply replace it right here, substitution, next to within, and we're going to get 7 over 2 root 3, and you're done. There was no work to show for that. I have found, and many of my students find that drawing the arrows does make it a little bit easier, because I go from 2n to n, and then I can go to n root 3. So x is equal to 7 over 2 root 3, and y is equal to 7 over 2. Okay. Next one. This is 11 over 2. Y and X. Since I'm not given the 30-degree angle, we're going to write it in. Because that's what I want to reference everything from, is the 30-degree angle. Some of you will get this quick enough to where you're going to go, oh, well, it's the one touching the 60 is in or across from the 30, but that's fine. Okay, so labeling, here we've got in, hypotenuse, 2n, and the other leg in 3. Well, this is kind of nice because I know what n is. N is 11 over 2. So am I going to multiply or divide to get my hypotenuse?
Multiply.
Multiply. I'm going to take this and multiply by 2. So 2 times 11 over 2. What happens to the 2's right there?
They cancel each other.
They do. So we're just going to get 11. The 2's cancel. Now we're done with the 2n, the hypotenuse. So now we can come back up here and use that n to find the long leg. So what would the long leg look like?
(11 over 2 root 3).
Perfect. This is simply going to be 11 over 2 because that's my n with a root 3 next to it. We know that x is equal to 11 over 2 root 3 and y is equal to 11. So they're all using the same relationships. They just start to give us problems that aren't as easy. Okay. And here's this one. A couple students are actually, they're getting kicked out. I'm not sure why, but no problem. Okay, so we've looked at when we're given n and when we're given the hypotenuse, but now we're going to explore, like last week, what do we do when we're given this side that has the root 3 that doesn't have a root 3 in it? So let's look at that. So this would be 12, this would be 30. So opposite the 30 is n. Oops. Yeah, we're just going to do it this way. N. This is 2n. This is n root 3. If this were a 12 root 3 instead of a 12, I would know that n is 12, but we don't. So this is where we need to use the shortcut. Does anybody remember what the shortcut was last week? What did we have to put next to our number?
Root 2?
Root 2 over
2.
2.
Root.
Good.
Yeah.
2 over 2. That was our shortcut. This is going to be very similar in that we're going to take this number because I know that n root 3 is equal to 12. I'm going to solve it just so you see why you get this similar shortcut. If I'm going to solve for n, I divide by anything next to it. so that they cancel. But now we're left with the challenge. I can't leave a radical in the denominator. So like last week, we're going to multiply by root 3 over 3. And what is root 3 times root 3?
3.
3.
3.
Good. And then on top, we get 12 root 3. Now, that's technically an answer, but check this out. This is our shortcut. Just like the other one was root 2 over 2, this one's root 3 over 3. But we would go ahead and simplify. 3 goes into 12 4 times, so we have 4 root 3 would be our end. So the shortcut stands to find n. N is equal to whatever number that is. I'm going to put it in the circle, and I'm going to put a root 3 over 3 next to it. That's my shortcut. So because this is 12, it could have been a 12 root 2, doesn't matter. Whatever goes in the circle. So 12 goes there. This is for us to find n using the shortcut. This is to find n using the shortcut. And because 12 divides by 3, we would have had 4 root 3. Okay, so that's 4 root 3. And then what do I do to n to get the hypotenuse?
Multiply by 2.
Multiply by 2. I'm going to take 2 times my n, which is 4 root 3. And what do we get when I multiply 2 times 4 root 3?
8 root 3.
8 root 3.
Good. And I like the curl responses. You guys already know that. Okay, so we get 8 root 3. Because I multiply outside numbers together. So that's where I got the 2 and the 4. We don't multiply it by the 3 because it's an inside number. Good. So we're going to practice using this shortcut one more time. Okay, so this time I'm going to say that this one's 8. Then I want to find the other two sides. So across from the 30-degree angle is going to be my n. So I go in. This would have been really nice if that were a hypotenuse, because that would have been 2n, but it's not. So 2n, which makes this one n root 3. So since the 8 doesn't have a root 3 next to it, this tells me that I need to use the shortcut. Because the 8 does not have a root 3 next to it. So remember, how do we find n? N is equal to whatever number that is, but they root 3 over 3 next to it. So what number goes in my circle?
8.
8. Okay, so I put an 8 right there. Does 8 divide by 3 evenly?
No.
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 So this n is going to be 8 root 3 over 3. That's n. Now, here's the tricky part, and most people, once they hear it, they're good. But which one of those numbers am I going to multiply by 2 to get the hypotenuse?
The numerator, the top.
The numerator, yep, the top. Okay, if I multiply both of them, I'd multiply it by 2 over 2, that'd give me a 1, so it wouldn't change its value. The only number that we're going to be multiplying is the 8. Okay, so that when I come over here, I have 2 times 8 root 3 over 3, which is going to give me 16 root 3 over 3. Okay. So our pattern around this triangle, we were given the long leg, we needed to find the short leg. So we used our shortcut. From there, I needed to multiply by 2. So I multiply by 2 over here, but only the 8. And there's our answer. And last example. And this time I'm going to tell you that this one is 2 root 2. And at first glance, you might be going, oh, well, that doesn't have a square root of 3, so maybe we have to use a shortcut. But label first. Label first. Okay? So labeling first, this becomes n, 2n, and n root 3. N, 2n, and n root 3. Okay, so we know that n is 2 root 2. What do I do to that to find the hypotenuse?
Multiply it by 2.
Multiply by 2. Okay, so to find the hypotenuse, we take that in. I go 2 times. Now, this honestly take 2 seconds, if even that, and write it down. So 2, and then put the n, which is 2 root 2, and then simplify. I know many of you can do that in your head, but it makes it so much easier, and you'll be more confident that you know what the answer is because you wrote it down and you can see it. Okay. So what would I get when I multiply 2 root 2 times 2?
4 root 2.
Root 2.
4 root 2. Awesome. 4 root 2. So there's my 2n. So I took my n and went 2n. And let's take our n and do the same thing up here. So x is going to equal n root 3. But my n is 2 root 2 times the root 3. And what would that one give me?
Two root 6.
Yep, absolutely. Because here we're multiplying the inside numbers together. And over here, we multiplied the outside numbers together. Good. That's 2 root 6. So x equal to 2 root 6. And y is equal to 4 root 2. Any questions on that? So now we'll go ahead and look at the worksheet. So remember, let me ask you, why are we doing the worksheets together? Somebody.
To
So we can practice together and ask questions if we have any.
Good.
and for us
And what happens after that?
after
And
what?
we can turn it in like right after.
You turn it in right after, and I get more students turning in their homework, which in turns gives you a better test score, which in turn gives you a better grade. Okay. So when you're not being consistent with assignments, it really does reflect on your test scores. But that, just saying. Okay, so number 1. I want to do the same problem. So what's the first thing we do?
We label.
Label. Nice. So an opposite to 30 is in, 2 in, and then root 3. So let me give you a second or two to write down what you think n and 2n are. Okay, so what do we think n is?
10.
Good. N is 10. What would that make the hypotenuse?
20.
Nice. 20. Okay. So y is 10, x is 20, you're done. And I'm actually gonna save you, I'm gonna let you guys do the x and y's. I'm not as concerned if you write the x and y, because if you're doing it this way, but I don't simply want x and y. Okay, I want to see you label anything. Number 3. Okay. So labeling, I see a 60-degree angle, but I need the 30-degree angle, so I'm going to write it in the other spot. When we get to label, so we have n, hypotenuse 2n, and then root 3. So take a minute, or actually 5 seconds, and write in what your x and y would be. So what's my hypotenuse?
8.
8. Good. So I'm going to take this, multiply by 2, so 2 times 4 equals 8. Okay, and then what would the long leg be?
4 root 3.
4 root 3. Now, it's easy for our mind to go, oh, this was 8, so that must be 8 root 3. But remember, all of this stems from n, not the 2n. So this would be something 4 root 3. Okay, good. Number 5. This one seems a little tricky. We're like, well, it's just a 1. What do we do with a 1? Same thing. This is n, 2n, and then 3. So if n is 1, what would my hypotenuse be?
2.
2. Yep. This 2 times 1 is 2. Go back to your n to find n root 3. What would that one be?
√3.
Yep. You may put, some of my students may put a 1√3, but if you simplify that, it's just √3. Okay, either answer is acceptable. On a multiple choice quiz, just please remember that 1√3 is the same as √3. And you're done. That was it. Okay, number 7. Again, I'm given my 60-degree angle, so let's draw in the 30-degree angle. Labeling, I get N, 2N, and then √3. Take 5 seconds and write in what the hypotenuse and long leg are. Okay, so some people that haven't been sharing, let's get you guys. What is the hypotenuse, guys?
4.
4. Okay, because 2 times 2 is 4. What does that make the long leg?
2√3.
Good. 2√3. Awesome. You're done. Okay. Let's do number 8. We're doing good on time here. So again, here's my 30-degree angle. So this becomes N, 2N, and N √3. Take 5 seconds, identify N, write it down, find the hypotenuse. So we're gonna go long leg to short leg to long leg. What's what's N?
8.
8. Because the √3s are the same. √3s are the same, which means N is 8. N is 8. What does that make the hypotenuse?
16.
16. Because 2 times 8 is 16. And you're done. Okay. Number 6, we have to work it backwards. So again, labeling. I hope you're feeling like really, a lot more comfortable with this as we're going along. So here's N, 2N, and then √3. Okay, so before we actually do the problem, go ahead and identify N and then N√3, but don't yell it out yet. It's where the chat box would have been nice. So am I going to multiply or divide to get N?
Divide.
Divide, okay? Because we're going smaller, we have to divide. So we're going to divide this way. So 6 divided by 2, N is 3, which makes the long leg what, people?
3√3.
3√3, good. Let's do 3√3, and you're done. Okay, so I'm gonna leave 2 and 4 for you guys to do. It's really a lot of the same thing. Okay, so we're gonna flip our page. Anybody still writing or need to take a picture? Okay. Flipping it over. Let's start with number 13. Okay. So 13, here's my 30-degree angle. Opposite that is N, 2n, and root 3. When you're doing special triangles and you're learning them and you're practicing them, it does help if you have a different colored pen or pencil, something like that, so that you can label and it doesn't look so cluttered. Okay. So this whole thing is in, what does that make the hypotenuse?
6 root 3.
Yep, 6 root 3. So you have 2 times 3 root 3, which would be the 6 root 3. Yep. And just the same thing, if I had 6 root 3 and I wanted to find n, I'd be dividing by 2. We only divide the outside numbers, so we would have had 3 root 3. Okay, so now going back to n. Did anybody get an answer for the long leg yet?
9.
9. Good. Because I'm going to take the n, which is 3 root 3, and I'm going to put a root 3 next to it. And when we multiply these two, we have the outside 3, and then the 2 3s give us another 3, and we get 9. Okay. Jump down to 19. I'll come back and this will be visible again in a minute, but let's do number 19. Okay. So here's n, 2n, and n root 3. Uh-oh. Our n root 3 doesn't have a root 3, so what are we going to need to use?
The shortcut.
Shortcut. Good. So this right here tells me that we need the shortcut because my root 3 doesn't have a root 3. So when I find n is equal to whatever that was, that is, with a root 3 over 3. So what's going to go in my circle?
Three.
It's actually all of this. It's going to be all of that. Whatever that number is, whether it's a 12, whether it's a 6, or a root, it's all going to go in there. So this goes in here, 3 root 2. What can I do with my outside 3s?
Cancel them.
Cancel. Those cancel. And then I have 2 inside numbers that I can multiply together, and it's equal root 6. So n is root 6. I'll put it right there. So then we go to the hypotenuse. And what do I get when I multiply root 6 by 2?
Two root 6.
Good. That was kind of a trick question because if you substitute it in, like, oh, well, that's an outside number and an inside number. They don't mix. So my answer is 2 root 6. And you're done. It's tempting to call it maybe root 12, but it's not because one's inside, one's outside. Hmm. Okay, so let's go back up to number 12. Let's go back up to number 12. And we'll draw in the 30-degree angle. Okay. So opposite the 30-degree angle is going to be our n. Hypotenuse will be 2n. And the long leg in root 3. Okay. So how are we going to find n? What do you think? What do you think? How are we going to find n?
Is 6 or n?
6 wouldn't be n because n is n root 3 equals 6. So how do we isolate our n when it doesn't have a root 3? Think about when it doesn't have a root 3, what do we need to do?
The shortcut?
Yep, shortcut. Back in your notes, or look at number 19 that we just did. If it doesn't have a root 3, we need to use the shortcut. Okay. So the shortcut says, I'm going to take whatever that is, and I'm going to put a root 3 over 3 next to it. Okay, so what goes in my circle?
6.
6. This is going to go in my circle. Remember, we're only doing outside numbers together. Does 6 divide evenly by 3?
Yes.
Yep. And if you do the 2 root 3, then we go to find our hypotenuse. We write 2 times my n, which we just found, into 2 root 3, which gives me what?
4 root 3.
4 root 3. Okay. Questions on that one? Okay. 14 is very similar, but instead of a 6, you have a 9. So we're going to repeat the same thing. Okay. Number 16 is nice because that does have a root 3. You can identify n. Okay. Meaning this would be n, 2n, and n root 3. So that's a nice one. Let's do 18. We'll try to cut it short today, a little bit. Okay. Number 10, if you look at number 14 and then you compare it to number 18, they're the same problem except this one's a 9 and that one's a 10. So we're going to apply the shortcut again. Here's my 30-degree angle. So here's n, 2n, and n root 3. So when the long leg doesn't have a root 3, what do we need to do?
Use a shortcut.
Shortcut. Good. This is the shortcut. So I know that my n is going to equal whatever that is with a root 3 over 3 next to it. So what goes in my circle?
10.
10. This goes in the circle. Does 10 divide evenly by 3?
No.
No, unfortunately it does not. So this just looks like the ugly number of 10 root 3 over 3. Just complicated. That's all. So what number do I multiply by 2 to get my hypotenuse?
10.
10. Okay. So I'm going to multiply the 10 by the 2. Okay. So 2 times 10 root 3 over 3. And we're going to get 20 root 3 over 3. And last, we'll do number 20. So here's my 30-degree angle. So this is my n, 2n, and then root 3. So what's n?
Three over two.
3 over 2. So that whole thing is my n. So when I bring it over here and I want to multiply it by 2, take a second and just write it in. It's a lot easier when you can substitute it and simplify it. What's going to happen there?
The twos are
Income
gonna
6 over
cancel
2. Oh,
It can be 6 over 2, but it's easier, as I heard the other person say, the 2's can cancel, and we're just left with 3. Okay. Go back to your n, and now let's find the long leg. So what is the long leg going to look like?
3 over 2 root 3.
3 over 2 root 3, because n is 3 over 2, and we just put a root 3 next to it, and there's your long leg. You're done. So I'm going to let you take the next 10 minutes and finish the few problems that we didn't do. And I'm going to stay here and answer questions as you do.